Meeting of the Northwestern Indiana Regional Planning Commission is now called to order, and please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will ask everyone please remain standing. That we like to highlight the importance of including physical activity in your regular routine. That almost 70% of our healthcare spending across the country goes towards managing chronic disease, which experts recommend that if you include around 30 minutes of physical activity in your regular routine, it greatly reduces your risk towards chronic disease. So we're going to do just a little quick exercise, because I know we got a lot to do this morning, that we're just going to do half jumping jacks of just the arms, no jumping around or anything like that. Just the arms. We don't have to get the plugs. This way it knocks out some of your minutes for the day today.
All right.
Very good. You can go ahead and have a seat. Thank you. All right, we're going to go ahead and keep pressing forward. I know a number of folks have various commitments that they have to get to here shortly, and we're going to have to do some adjustments to some things due to other time constraints, and I'll apologize. I am going to have to head out about 10 o'clock for another meeting in report, but we're going to try and get through things as rapidly as possible. My understanding is that there are no appointments to the board that we need to make today. So that then takes us to the approval of the minutes from the April 16th meeting of the Executive Board, and I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes as submitted. I have a motion and a second. Are there any corrections, additions, or deletions to the minutes?
Madam Chair, who's the second person? Thank you.
Pick one. I have a motion and a second. Hearing no corrections, additions, or deletions. All those in favor of approving the minutes as submitted, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? The minutes are approved, and that takes us then to the report of the chair. And I have a couple of different things to address. That first off, we want to talk a little bit about the committee structure, of which hopefully everyone had a chance to review the message that was sent out. And you have a couple of items in front of you, one of which is in your packet and shows the graphic that a lot of work has been done to depict the discussions that we've had on how the committees would be organized for NERC and some of the process that's utilized for the decision making with funding, so that then it's a lot easier to follow, I think, than some of the earlier diagrams, and not a significant change, I don't believe, in the process overall, but ultimately tries to help clarify what that process is, and then who is a part of each step of the process, particularly who are the specific members of these committees. And so there's also a Word document that you have in front of you. It talks about, you see the headline up here that says NERC, two for the price of one, that we have a Metropolitan Planning Organization as well as a Council of Governments. And so it talks a little bit about what those particular roles are, and then what the specific committees would do. So there's a little more description in the Word document, but I'll quickly kind of go over the thought process overall. That you have some of the Council of Governments committees that are on this side of the Local Government Assistance Committee, the Legislative Committee, and then Finance and Personnel is really more of an operational group that helps ensure the functions of everything is moving forward. The accounting is all happening. And then you have the Outreach Committee, which it serves both an MPO and a COG function, and is really meant to be a part of the process of all of the committees and to administer the public participation plan, those various efforts. And then when you move down into this large green section here, you'll see the differentiation of sort of where projects start with the Group 1 and Group 2, and we tried to then explain what Group 1 and Group 2 means, since that's sort of nomenclature that gets bandied about around NERC, but may not be as clear to everyone else that doesn't spend as much time around NERC. That Group 1 refers to Lake and Porter counties, and then Group 2 is LaPorte County. Those differentiations come because of the difference of population mixes in those different areas. And so projects are submitted by the stakeholders in both of those areas in the Transportation Resource and Oversight Committee. And then, so they are going to be part and parcel of these specific projects. They're stakeholders because they're most often match money required from those particular communities or counties to participate in those projects, have those move forward. They would then move forward to this lighter shade of green here of topical committees. And the topical committees would be comprised of both commissioners as well as stakeholders out in the communities, in the region, academics, practitioners of these particular programs, that they just are able to provide some insight and review on the impacts that these particular projects may have in their communities or the region. And then it's a non-binding review of what recommendations that would come out of these particular topical committees. And then it would move forward to the Technical Planning Committee, which would be a combination of what was the TPC and the 2040 implementation committee that has existed before. The impetus behind combining those two committees is to be able to incorporate the decisions that we're wanting to make for the implementation of 2040 with a financial aspect as well, so that we're making sure that we're putting our money where our mouth is for the 2040 plan, and it is being incorporated in all the projects that we're wanting to move forward on, that we're thinking about them in the context of the vision for 2040. And so that's where the combination would be. You'll see in your packet here about who would make up some of these specific committees. And there was a lot of thought that went into trying to ensure that there's equal representation at the TPC or in the Technical Planning Committee level, and also trying to, I think, corral a little bit some of the participation that, as we looked at people that have been a part of the TPC process previously, Mary provided me with a list of anyone that's been considered a voting member, and it got to be about, I think it was 4 pages long, because there's just been an extensive amount of participation and not necessarily any specific guidance on who was voting and who wasn't voting. And we wanted to make sure that there was equal representation, but in a manner that was able to be fruitful and helpful in a discussion process, and doesn't become just unwieldy because you have potentially 4 pages worth of people that are participating and potentially not equally representing all of these different projects that may come forward. So I do want to draw your attention to those specifics. What we would look to have is a great participation in some of these topical committees, so that then there's a thorough review there, that there would still be certainly great participation in the Technical Planning Committee, but we want to ensure that all the commissioners have an opportunity to be a part of the process and a part of the project submissions and the review throughout. And so that's where we wanted to ensure that there's opportunities throughout this process. And then ultimately, then the decisions move forward to the NERC Executive Board and Commissioners. And so you'll see that there is an arrow signaling that the process starts out here with the Transportation Resource and Oversight Committee, moves inward. That's the initial process. But there's also this arrow up here that says Oversight. And that's where it would come back to the Group 1 and Group 2 Transportation Resource and Oversight Committees to ensure that the projects that have been submitted into the TIP are actually moving forward in a timely fashion and are continuing on cost, on budget, so that then that helps us to stay in good stead with INDOT, with FTA, FHWA, so that as they're tracking the progress of our projects, that we're not having projects that have been approved but that sit out and languish because they haven't been moved forward on from some of the local communities, that then gets us in trouble if we've approved funding but we're not doing the projects. So we want to make sure that we have this oversight piece, but in a manner that is reasonable and not too time consuming. And so the idea would be that this oversight role could come from having quarterly meetings of these transportation resource and oversight committees to just touch base on where the projects are on their progress overall. And since they're the ones closest to the projects, you have the stakeholders there, they're involved in what's happening with each of them, and we're able to move forward with the oversight process. I hope that everyone has had a chance to think about this a little bit and to look into it. I would be happy to take any questions or comments or anything like that. Mr. Benson.
So I would like to commend you and the staff for doing this. This has been a very long process. We've worked on it for over a year, about a year and a half, and to me it's very well thought out and executed and proposed. I would like to make a motion that we adopt this as the committee structure for NERC going forward from this day forward.
Great. Thank you very much. I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I have a second. Any further discussion, questions, comments? Hearing none, then all those in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Fantastic. All right, that takes us, wraps up the committee process. And again, as we move throughout this process, please feel free to submit any comments or questions or recommendations for how we can tweak this for improvement along the way. That very much open to that. The second item that I have for my report is that I received a letter from an individual from Lake Station that there was a question, or there are some questions about a specific project in Lake Station, and so I just wanted to provide some insight into the research that we've done, or the staff has done, I should say, on where the scope of the project is and kind of what some of the background is. I know that some of these individuals have signed up for submitting some comments during public comment period. Certainly want to welcome that. I just, because of some of my schedule constraints this morning, I wanted to make sure I follow up on that and offer this information. Then if there are further questions afterwards, we'll be happy to take any of those and try and assist as best as we can. And okay, there's a fact sheet that has been provided, which is basically some of the, what I was just going to address. Giving the background and history that this is regarding a particular roundabout project in Lake Station. And there was some question on where this stemmed from, and a review of the total scope of the project elements, the project's associated traffic study, the revenue source for Lake Station's matching funds responsibility, and the financial impact. Some of that NERC can answer, some of that we cannot, because that's not some of what NERC's role is. But I can give you the background and history was that Lake Station originally requested federal funding in 2011 under the Surface Transportation Program. Between 2011 and 13, not a lot was done to implement the project, but then in 2013, the city had requested and was granted federal funds to cover 80% of the preliminary engineering, or PE, and right-of-way costs. And it was then included in the 2014 or 2017 Transportation Improvement Program, or the TIP, which was then adopted in August of 2013. In 2014, the city selected American Structure Point Consultants to design the project, and in early 2015, A design contract was executed for $376,000. NDOT purchase orders for PE services totaled about $301,000 for federal funds. Those are being issued, and NDOT has issued a notice to proceed on the design work. To talk about work on the project design is scheduled to begin within the next 30 to 60 days, and it's proposed for inclusion in the 2016 to 2019 TIP set for adoption today. The scope of the project is based on the most recent submission, a roundabout construction with curb, drainage, sidewalks, a bike path, lighting, and landscaping. Realignment of Central Avenue from just east of J Street to a point east of LaPorte Street, and full reconstruction of LaPorte Street from Fairview Avenue to Central Avenue, underground and above ground utility relocation. As far as the revenue source of matching funds, about $829,000 in local funds are needed for the federal match then. And that's broken down into $75,000 of PE, $522,000 of right-of-way, and then $232,000 for construction. When I mentioned there are some pieces that NERC can't speak to, that we don't dictate where those local funds come from, and so that's going to be more of a question for any Lake Station officials. But that's a little bit of the background from a NERC perspective, and hopefully provide some insight into the questions that were raised. There would be some difficulty in trying to, if there was a desire to remove that from the TIP at this point, because it then jeopardizes some of the projects that we have, the other projects that we have in the TIP. But we have to try and work through that process if that's what Lake Station or then the body at large here decided was the right next steps. But just wanted to provide that insight, and if there are further questions, then we're happy to take those during public comments, which is a little bit later on in the agenda here, and at any point afterwards too, that we'll certainly try to help as much as we can. Sure.
I just wanted to note that Chris Murphy from American Structure Point is here. He has to leave very shortly, so at time constraints, I don't think we'll do additional kind of presentation thing, but I'm sure, I have to put you on the spot, Chris, but I'm sure as you're heading out, if there are specific questions people want to try to catch you for, I'm sure they do.
Sure. Thank you very much. I'm Chris Murphy with American Structure Point. Just one comment I'd like to make tied to the board and the community. The aerial photograph shown attached to the fact sheet was developed for planning purposes for this project. American Structure Point has not started the actual final engineering design work on this project. So the elements that you see presented in the aerial photograph are very basic preliminary elements. The final design will actually determine the exact costs, both on federal dollars and in local dollars, that will be needed to complete the project.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, that concludes my report, which then takes us to the report from the executive director.
Great, and I'm going to be very fast for reasons that I'll talk about in just a minute. First of all, while I was packing up my office for the move that were happening, came across this nice article from Northwest Indiana Business Quarterly about execs scheduling their fitness activities that profiles our own Mayor Milo, who just took you through these exercises this morning. So there's your own personal copy. There you go. First of all, just to let you know, so House Bill 1164, which was our bill to update the weighted voting census figures. If you remember, during the Ileana process, we had to go back to the 2000 census figures because of the way our enabling statutes read. Well, that is now officially signed. It's now Public Law 20. So starting effective July 1st, if anyone calls for a weighted vote, it will now be the last decennial census is the way the wording was changed instead of specifically 2000. So if anybody calls for a weighted vote today on anything, you still have to use the 2000 census numbers. But after July 1st, we'll be up to speed at the 2010 census numbers. So just want to publicly acknowledge and thank Representative Bill Fine and Senator Rick Niemeyer, who co-sponsored that legislation, and then Representative Ed Soliday and Senator Jim Arnold and Senator Lonnie Randolph that sponsored it. So we're very grateful for that. It went through the process very, very simply, so that's now effective and in place. In other legislative actions on the national level, I think it was Tuesday, Congress passed, if I understand right, an extension of the highway bill. Just again, I hate to use the phrase, but kick the can down the road another 2 months. Still has to be worked out for how the funding for the Highway Trust Fund and all that is going to be funded, but right now it's been delayed until we're not facing the May 31st cutoff. That was initially the case, but it's just been put down another 2 months. So of course we're tracking that and keep posted about that. Just wanted to note, I had mentioned last time that several of the staff were going to Seattle for the American Planning Association conference. I think I mentioned I served on a pre-conference panel with 15 other MPOs about our own Livable Communities program. And even though our numbers are not as high as places like Atlanta and San Francisco that participated in the program, our program itself is right up there with those other MPOs. And so it was a really good exchange about how to tweak and fine-tune and enhance those programs. Why I'm rushing through this is because literally, as opposed to the false start that we had a couple of months ago when I said we were going to be under construction, we actually literally are now under construction. So I'd really actually encourage you, when you get done with the meeting, take a peek down into our offices. It's surreal. It's actually all coming down as we speak. In fact, the movers are poised as soon as, this is why I'm rushing through this. The movers are poised, ready to swoop into this room and take these tables up and dismantle this room and move desks and staff into this very space as soon as your meeting's over. I mean, literally. In fact, we can't see it, but there's cables already dropped in these meetings that will drop down to enable the internet and phone hookups for staff. Planning staff, they're going to set up shop in here. My office is temporarily with the forum. Staff is shuffling all over the place. And so for the next, 6 to 8 weeks or the time period, it's going to be a little chaotic. So it's really honestly underway. Just a quick note on what that means for your meetings. As I said when we thought we were underway a little while ago, same situation here. For the next 3 months, I've secured, through the graciousness of the Construction Advancement Foundation, they've offered space across the street for our meetings if we want to take advantage of that. I'll be working with Mayor Milo to figure out the best way forward in the next coming months. It could be that if we don't have anything that has to have action on, we may consider canceling a meeting. We may consider taking the meeting in a completely different location. We'll just be in touch and we'll keep you informed about that for these next couple of months at least. That's all I want to say on that. I just also want to acknowledge too Jeff Benson, recipient of Leaders as Heroes Award. As he's going what? For the South Shore Leadership Center. So congratulations, Jeff. That was a great. And last but not least, I'm going to call up and, like I said, everybody is literally moving stuff around. So we've been in jeans this whole week, Joe Exel being no exception. So Joe, come on up. Nobody cares about what you're wearing. Joe is another one of these faces at NERC that you may not see at this these meetings too often, but he's well known to a lot of school kids in the region from work. He gets all the toys at NERC, actually, little bug slides and microscopes and things like that. Joe is a water expert with your streams, with watershed planning. That's the kind of work Joe does, works with Kathy Luther in the environmental section, and he's been here 5 years, and so we have a staff award to recognize Joe for his service. And that's it.
All right, that takes us then, I'm going to have a quick adjustment that Mr. Powers has to head to address another issue, but has some things that he wanted to make sure to report on. So I'm going to ask Mr. Powers to address us now so that then we can get you to the matters at hand.
Thank you. As of like 5:30 last night, I had this time protected on my calendar, and that changed. So thank you. I appreciate it, Mayor, for moving this up. I just want to give you an update on some of the things we're doing seasonal. Besides that, I can't help but say Bob's here anyway. So I'll slide out, he'll slide in, and he's been fresh out of the General Assembly, so I'm sure he'll be updating you on the legislative session. Why don't you, Bob?
Right. Yeah, I think 3 or 4 hours out of the way.
Sorry. Anyway, when I leave, if Bob, if you would come up here and sit down, I'd appreciate it, because I do have to zoom out. We had something come up yesterday, but just generally, you probably saw, I think the last time we had an issue with an accident on 94. It's not uncommon we do. We had one here recently, in fact, and had to divert traffic, but we also took 94 east to one lane about a week or so back, I want to say on the 14th, to deal with some major potholes, and that for about a 3-mile stretch from State Road 249 to 49. That went well. We're trying to basically get 2 years out when there's a resurface project going in there. I know people are going to say, well, Westbound is not far behind, we know. So keep that in mind. That may come soon, we don't know. We're going to see how it goes. But again, we appreciate your patience when those things happen. We're trying to stay in front of it, messaging, detours, and so on. So I hope that's working with Matt aboard. Seems to be working well. So I just want to let you know that did go well. It kind of went uneventful. In fact, I thought there'd be more pushback with one lane, but it was okay because there was already construction in the area. The other thing is we're going into our summer pavement preservation plan, which will be a lot of chip seal projects coming up. So Lake, Porter, LaPorte are all scheduled to go forward July through August, and then the rest of the district will follow. We're still finalizing the exact roads and where we're going to go with that, but suffice to say those areas in those counties will be probably higher on the list based on what we're seeing in pavement condition. Highway cleanup and mowing is underway on 65 and 94, and you should see those cycles coming. You may note some of the trash is actually being moved out, and we're not trying to move it into traffic lanes, we're just moving it away from the barrier so it can be picked up. It's too big for the sweepers to handle, so if you note that, that's what's going on. Crews aren't avoiding it, they're just moving it so we can pick it up. And that is pretty much it, unless you have any questions for me. I got a scoop. Although I will take a question if you have it.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
20 has just been repaid, right? And there's one lane closed, as you said. What's the problem?
US 20, oh yeah, actually I do have an update. Basically, we had some issues. We're not sure what exactly to attribute it to yet, which is why we're testing. And working with the contractor that installed the pavement. Because again, that's our heavy truck route. So we're not sure if we're attributing it to the traffic, the amount of heavy truck traffic, to the condition, to the weather, any number of factors we're trying to pin
Well,
down.
what I've seen is really crumbling on the, if you go east of the, on the
I was on
side.
it yesterday.
Yeah, and it bothers me because it has just been redone.
Right.
So obviously the job has been lousy.
And that's what we're working through that now with the contractor, in fact, both sides of this to figure out exactly what the issue is. Because we've noted it, which is why it's closed. There's actually a safety concern along that area going into Chesterton, just actually close to our main issue. I was over yesterday and noting the same thing. So, and as we pin this down, I don't want to be jumping to conclusions as to what the issue is until I know. It's easy to do that. It's easy to say what happened when in fact we don't know. And this becomes a very scientific process that goes way over my head at times, even when they have the solution. I think sometimes the solution is something I don't completely understand the chemistry of. But that's where we're getting into here. And when we figure that out, we'll proceed. But for now, that's the explanation I have, and we'll move through it as we can. We're aware of it in our moving plan. I guess our cones are evidence of that. So I hope that answers the question as best I can. All right. Anything else?
There's one from Mr. Crum.
I had a quick question. I was glad to hear you say something about getting into the potholes and so forth in July. Again, I'd like to bring out onto the table the fact that Indiana 49 between 94 and 80-90 is in really, really rough shape. And I know it's scheduled to be left this summer and repaved, but in the spring next year. But right now, my concern is a safety issue. The people are actually driving out of their lanes to avoid the holes and into the other lane of traffic. It's a divided highway.
Where is that? Where stretch is that? 49?
It's 49 between the toll road and 94.
I know where you're at now.
And there's a big truck route connecting those two roads, and it's literally disappearing as we speak, crumbling.
Yeah, I would second Jim's comment, because I travel it every day from Porter to Valpo, and there are cars swerving and tractor trailers bouncing around, so.
Blair, if I could, just a 20-second editorial, you know, I'm all for, and I'm just speaking for myself here, but I'm all for fiscal restraint, good budgeting. It's good to have a reserve. It's good to have low taxes. But the roads are an investment, and all over the state, we simply need to think differently about our roads. I mean, we have to make the investment to keep the quality of our infrastructure. I mean, so I just think, the time has come to think differently about trying to fund our roads. And I know you only have so much money to work with, but it's bad really all over the state. And it's a reflection on our state too, I think. I don't know. So I hope in the future we can think not just about, we want to balance our budget, we want to be careful with our money, but if we fail to make a proper investment in our infrastructure, we will pay a greater price.
And at this point, those words aren't lost, but obviously being in the business, it has to be. If anyone has an interest in doing that, it's this agency, since we do it. But again, we're not the funding authority.
You can kick the can to Bob when he's done.
Bob can figure that one out.
Bob just came.
Right.
Bob just came from the group that actually does do something about that. So that being said, I think we've hopefully been as clear as we can about our transition from capital improvements to buying new infrastructure, into a building new infrastructure, into a preservation mode. And meaning the spending will go up in that area. And I think, I recall, I don't have it off the top of my head because I wasn't prepared to give a fiscal outlier, but I think over the next 5 years, we are looking to spend a great deal of money on preservation in this corridor. So that should address those things that you were talking about to the point of preservation. To the things that we had known in the past, I think we have moved temporarily, at least beyond that, to what we can make as major investments for new infrastructure. It's just not there. And I can't speak to the point of getting us there other than lobbying to the point of what the conditions of our infrastructure are, which is what NDOT does. And we are that point that comes forward and points to the areas that have the need and then try to work with our elected officials to get there. And again, Bob hopefully can and will speak to some of the efforts he made this year on behalf of the agency and where we are in actual numbers. That being said, I do hear you. I think the commissioner, I know, hears you, and that is our focus, is trying to maintain the infrastructure for Hoosiers and create a safe travel community. There's no greater goal for us as an agency. So I think you're preaching to us in a way that
Sure,
we're
you're limited. You have a budget you have to work with, so it's really not your issue.
And I hope we're putting it in the right places. I guess to that end, our part in that is to find and score the roads where the greatest need is and address the needs in that way. Understanding your perspective of Northwest Indiana is endeared to where you live and work. I think our spending is indicative of that. So keep that in mind, and like I said, if there are specific issues that I can address on a road that I can address short term to get us to a long-term solution, we'll do that. And again, I'll take that to our area engineer and let him go out and take a look at it and see what we can do.
I didn't mean to imply at all that efforts haven't been made, but they have not been effective. Just the filling of the holes is gone within a day.
Well, and if you, again, as I've been in 94, there are sometimes holes get to a point where putting an asphalt in them isn't enough. And maybe we've reached that point. Again, that's something we'll have to go and take a look
I
at.
appreciate you taking a look at it.
Sure. Thank you, sir. Anything else?
I just want to make one last comment regarding this. One of the frustrating things is that the legislature doesn't give cities the tools to deal with their own roads. All the tools have to go through the county, and it's very difficult sometimes, to get that much political force to get it done. So, we can't enact a road tax even if our citizens demand it. So, I think that's another issue, is stop treating the cities as if they need, some paternalistic oversight. They're the government closest to the people. Give us the tools to make the proper investments in our cities, because it's in your cities, that's where people are moving to, that's where the economic development happens. And so I know it has nothing to do with what you do. I'm just making an editorial comment here. Thank you.
Well, in just one second, while we're on that subject, that I think it's very important, and I appreciate that you brought that point forward, that's been the #1 topic this entire year, I think, in the city of LaPorte, and I'm sure in many of our fellow cities is that I hear from people regularly about the concern on roads, and my thought is, I get it, I hear you, I don't have the tools to be able to address it, and I would be more than willing to try and take on those difficult discussions, because there is the drive behind folks, no pun intended, to try and have more work done for our roads, but cities and towns are not equipped with the abilities to have the tools to be able to address this, which has been something that Mayor Stahura has been a part of our discussions, yourself, Mayor McDermott. It is not a partisan issue of any sort, that there is very much a demand from across, I think, various different cities, and we're seeing it play out in our cities. You're hearing it now at a state level. On Sunday night, 60 Minutes ran their episode that they did back in the fall. They ran it again about the lack of investment in infrastructure across the United States, and signaling the number of bridges that are in dangerous states. They're not yet unsafe, but they're dangerous, and I think that it's very important, especially for a group of this nature, to continue having those discussions about solutions that we've come up, that just as you've said, cities and towns are willing to take on those discussions on providing solutions to at least our local roads and streets, and we're willing to move forward on that. We just need to be provided some of those tools, and I think that we're at a point that we need to be able to have a larger voice with the legislature to explain, this is the problem. We're not looking for you to necessarily fix it. Let us fix it, because we are the government closest to the people. And just one second, I'll come back to you, Mayor, and because you patiently waited for us.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, with 30 and 41 being the heart of my town in Sherrill there, we have the same issue. I don't think there's at times where I don't think our public works would mind going on 30 and 41 and fixing potholes that are bad. And sometimes in emergency, we have done that, but in the states actually here lately have been very good. 30 and 41 intersection right now really needs repaving really bad. The intersection probably from Deer Creek to 77th on 41 definitely needs repaving. But the other question I get more calls about than I do the potholes is the striping. The striping at the intersections and stuff is worn off really bad. And what that does at night is affects that intersection a lot, not seeing the striping, not getting the lane usage like you're supposed to. So I would like to just let you make a note of that, the striping at 31. Thank you.
Madam Chair, I just wanted to add, and you said it at the end of your remarks, that really does, this whole issue really does compel us to be much more active, both with the state legislature as well as with members of Congress and our state delegation, because this is the seminal conversation. Ty talked about them kicking the can down the road for 2 months. And so we really have to step up our activity, both as an organization and as individuals, to let people know that we are paying attention. There is just a National Infrastructure Day on May 13th that we participated in. But, if you talk to the members of the General Assembly, they will say that it is an issue in terms of federal funding. We know that there is money available at the state level, but I think that if we talk to both, then it's hard for both to point fingers at each other.
Absolutely. Mr. Benson?
To add to that, when we go on our NARC meetings to the Washington DC and talk to them, that's great, but it's not enough, and we should get all the 52 commissioners to call their congressional delegates and senators and let them know how they feel, because when we were there in February, they said, well, when we say we're going to raise the gas tax, we get a lot of phone calls saying don't. Well, we need to again call them and say to fix it. Sure.
Well, and the discussions that we've always had have been, let us be a part of the solution, that we're here to help. And that if there are tough discussions that have to be had, we're happy to be an ally in those discussions, and we have the opportunity to talk with our constituents. And once the information is explained, I think that you would hear a resounding thankfulness from folks that are wanting to have better roads and safe infrastructure to be able to travel, because that's how all the commerce moves in our country and our states and in our cities. So I think that there would be an understanding when you can have that conversation, but you have to be able to have that conversation. You have to have something that you're able to talk about.
Madam Chair, I just want to say, Mayor's comments really resonate with me. I share a grave concern for our road infrastructure across the state. And I also understand there's these individual conversations that mayors are having, buttonholing their congressmen and trying to make some noise. We seem to be talking to the wrong guy right now. We've established that he's doing the best he can. Is there anything this...
We welcome your voice. I don't know you're talking to the wrong guy, because we're trying to say the same thing, I think, from a different perspective.
I'm just going to ask the question, is there anything that this 53-member Council of Government can do as a body that would make a difference, instead of just the mayor or Valpo or Michigan City lobbying calls into the congressmen trying to get our roads fixed?
Well, forgive the old jarhead coming out of me, but the closer you are to sounding like one boot hitting the ground, the more likely are you will be heard. And if you can find unity in that regard in your voice will become loud and one that can't be silenced. We are an advisory role as an agency, obviously, that is within government to do the right things, to do due diligence for the funds we're given by the people elected to do those things. You do it at a local level. Our voice together and what we are advising relative to the conditions of pavement and you crying out for the need is probably a voice that needs to be heard in concert. I can't imagine us being aligned in any other way or misaligned. You're always going to hear me saying here, here. Every time I've met with any one of you individually, I hear you going to Indianapolis, I say thank you. What more can I add? Thank you. Because that's what we need, is that voice and that concern brought forward so that it resonates into the body that actually votes to appropriate funds to get it done. It is great. The needs are great, the dollars are not as great. And I think that is what it always comes down to, is how we prioritize spending, and all of us saying we're doing due diligence for the people. And us figuring out what that is and where that is best appropriated is really probably said some dollar level. I don't know if you want to put a dollar level on it. It is that question. Where do we prioritize spending and what areas for the needs that are great across many agencies and many specific needs? Because if we change the topic outside of infrastructure, someone in here would find a key point and say, we need to address whatever that is. And behind that is a need to spend money to do it. And then finding people to prioritize a way to find funds to get there. So we will help any way we can as an agency within INDOT. And we are sensitive to that topic and even, I guess, sympathetic, because we are the ones that are trying to do it. I'd love to have the problem of not having enough people to program the projects coming our way. In some cases that happens on occasion. I'd love to have the problem all the time. And I think Bob would probably echo the sentiments. In fact, that's his work. He probably should be sitting up here now, because he does hear that and kind of taking on a lobby role for us within the General Assembly and trying to be the voice for the agency to say the needs are great. And then trying to get people to prioritize in a way that their voices are heard, the needs are projected, and the spending is, I guess, commensurate to that need. We hear you, we thank you, quite frankly. Again, thank you. So that would be my advice: become one voice and make it loud.
Madam Chair. Mr. Powers, is there a procedure in place that if the city had to do an emergency, if we just cried out, and no one heard our cry, and we was compelled to remove what we think is a liable situation, is there a procedure in place that we can recover those monies expended out?
I think that argument you just made. If you were compelled to do it, I think that it'd be, could throw it in like a tort category, but sometimes things happen. If that's what happens and you feel compelled to make the argument, then the argument will be heard. I don't know, again, what the specifics are that would push you to that, to where we wouldn't, and you did, because that would probably be the argument.
I can give you a good incident in my South Shore station in East Chicago. We just got a big old divot, big one. We've been crying out for it to get fixed, and just getting worse. So if it just reached the point that cars bottom out, like they swerving, and the city is compelled, because it would be joint liability. I mean, they would also be suing us. So if the city just say, we have to move and fix this, and we go to fix it, procedurally, can we get reimbursed for fixing it?
What is the issue? And let me see if I can fix it. What is it? Where is it? It's Lake
Right by the
Station?
South Shore Station
Oh,
in
South
Chicago.
Shore, okay.
If you drive through there, you won't miss it. But I'm still saying, do we reach that point? Do we reach that point, and how do we address it? Because the citizens look at us, especially, there's times down Indianapolis, Columbus Drive, we literally go and patch up the potholes. You know, especially when we're in the silly season, coming toward the election. You call for the cavalry, if it don't come, you know you have to do it. Because the citizens gonna say, that is your road. They don't look and say, this is a state road. So when it reached that point, like when we cried out about the potholes, we went on and fixed the potholes because the state, they just wasn't coming. So we reached that point, we fixed the potholes. At that point, how do we recoup what the money we have to expend out?
Again, through reaching out through the agency and saying where you would put into that position. However, I don't want to put you in that position, is what I'm saying. Call me, because I don't know what you're saying to me right now. It's the first that I recall hearing it. Give me the opportunity to see if I can address it, is what I'm saying, so that you're not in that position. I don't want to leave a local official. I came from that world. That's where I came from, was Indianapolis, working in local government. I don't want to leave local government language when I can do something about it. If it's that bad, I should be able to do something about it if you can't. I should be able to. If I can't, then there will be a very honest discussion saying, I am limited to what I can do. I don't want to reach that position, is what I'm saying. It almost sounds more of an impasse issue than a willingness. So again, I don't know if that's the case. Let me see what it is that's there and see if I can make it go away. That would be preferable. I mean, so that you don't reach the position where you feel compelled to take something upon, or the burden upon yourself that we should be addressing. Because I quite frankly feel like we should address it, based on what I've heard from you.
Like I said, we did it with the potholes, and now we at the point we're gonna do it right there at the location I told you. It's just that point. I mean, that's what we do locally.
Let me see what I can do.
Maybe at this point,
Right.
if the two of you can dialogue
Sure.
afterwards. or
Absolutely, I actually have it, so we'll see what I can find. I'll follow back.
Madam Chair, I just want to warn you that you may lose your quorum, and so if there's some action that you need to take, you should probably take it. I counted 29, but I need to leave, so you said you need to leave.
I'm gonna have to
So,
And so, okay, what are the items that we need of full quorum on?
Actually, we don't need it. Nothing that has to happen with the commission. We can do that executive board, but there was the desire to do the CRPF issue with the full commission.
Okay, we'll quickly jump to the, so it's the action on resolution 15-12.
Actually, all three, they have to go in that sequence, actually.
Okay, we'll move quickly to TPC, and I know that there are some folks that have to head out here shortly, so I'll turn to Mr. Dobus.
Madam Chair, Mr. Dovis could not make it today,
Okay.
so I've been asked to give the report. With your permission, I will proceed.
Absolutely, please do so.
The Transportation Policy Committee met on May 12th and heard a variety of reports from staff. The focus was on the update of the 2040 plan. We heard a report from staff on the public comments from the development of the three products of the planning process before you today for action. Stephen Sestard will summarize the comments with us.
Morning, everyone. So we had a public comment period starting on March 9th, originally scheduled to end April 10th, but eventually extended to April 27th. We did a series of 7 meetings throughout our 3 counties during that time to gather public comment, and of course, you're also able to, folks are also able to comment by email, via telephone, letters, what have you. So, you know, any way you can get in touch, social media, things like that. So what you see is starting on page 16 of your agenda packet, and this should have been emailed out a few weeks ago as well, following the public comment period, is the public comment report. So hopefully you all got a chance to look at that, see the comments that were received, and that is the summary. And we found no need to modify the document based on comments received. And that concludes my report. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. We have 3 actions for consideration. The first is on Resolution 15-11, which is found on pages 30 to 47 in the meeting packet. It is the air quality conformity determination for the plan update. Scott Weber will describe this issue.
Hello, good morning. Good morning. Last Tuesday, the Transportation Policy Committee recommended that Resolution 1511 be up for adoption by this commission today. This is a prerequisite before we can adopt the 2040 Comprehensive Regional Plan Companion Update in the fiscal year 2016 to 2019 Transportation Improvement Program. We must find that those 2 plans conform to the Indiana State Implementation Plan on Air Quality. So on pages 32 to 47, there's a technical document that explains why the Transportation Policy Committee last week found that this be recommended to this commission for adoption today. And it shows that by every 5 years out to the year 2045, you can see that on page 46, that the emissions for volatile organic compounds, nitrous oxides, fall below their budgets, as well as for the fine particle 2.5 areas, that all of the direct particulate matter and nitrous oxides fall into their emissions every year, 5 years out from 2015 to 2045. The Interagency Consultation Group on Air Quality found these numbers to be true. So in that case, it is recommended that the commission today find this report and adopt Resolution 1511.
Transportation Policy Committee recommends action on Resolution 15-11.
Motion to approve. Second.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Motion carries.
The second action is on Resolution 15-12, which is on pages 48 and 49. It is the 2040 Comprehensive Regional Plan Update Companion. Accompanying the resolution is a separate handout, which is a memorandum from the Pathway to 2040 Committee that provides highlights of the plan update. Mitch Parloga will describe this proposed update.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you, and good morning, Commissioners. Before you now is the resolution to recommend approval or to approve the update to our 2040 Regional Comprehensive Plan. I'm holding the document here in my hands. We've had it out for public review and comment for the last couple months. And as Stephen has mentioned, we've gone through the process of garnering public feedback on the plan. This report was up before the Pathway to 2040 Committee last month, April 30th. They, upon recommendation of approval, asked that the staff prepare a memorandum that bullet pointed the major aspects of this report and to clarify to all of the approval committees what it is all about. You have that memorandum. There was a separate handout at the table. The memorandum is very succinct. It gets to the point about what this plan is about. I will read a couple of highlights here. First and foremost, there have been no changes to the 2040 plan assumptions or goals. 2 amendments have been added here to the Transportation Improvement Program, which will come up before you after this plan is recommended or is approved, such as bus rapid transit and the Willow Creek Road extension to 100 South. No concepts or plan elements have been abandoned, and NERC is in compliance with its own public participation plan. There are others as well. Safe to say that the plan update, the companion itself, is not in any shape or form an overhaul of our 2040 comprehensive plan. It is an improvement, it's an enhancement upon the statistics, demographics, and other assumptions that have changed, obviously, in the last 4 years. We will be undertaking a major overhaul of the plan when it gets to the 2050 document later this decade. But at this time now, it is just a matter of a companion document. Again, the two major elements here, including Willow Creek and the bus rapid transit, are the major additions to the planning document itself. And of course, NERC has had some successes over the last 4 years in the Centers for Livable Communities, EMAN's and Gabrielle's initiative, and the projects that have come out of that program as well have been highlighted in this update. So that is my report on the update. I'll take any questions if there are any. Commission.
I have a question in
Yes.
that I get an email each day that's the word of the day, and a couple of these words have not appeared yet in my emails.
This was prepared by Michael Griffin.
I know the words, Madam Chair. Actually, it should read inchoate as well as nascent.
Oh, inchoate.
My apologies on behalf of the staff.
They are perfectly descriptive of the status of the document.
We are not fluent in Griffin. As much as we thought we were. Yes, sir.
Are you considering changing intersections, roundabouts?
Excuse me?
Are you considering in your plan?
Yes.
To change intersections where it can be done with roundabouts?
We recommend complete streets in this regarding complete streets regards roundabouts as an element in the design protocol, and yes, we do promote that.
Because that's what seems to be to have been done there at Lake Station.
Certainly. I mean, roundabouts are now becoming a very popular and very tried and true alternative to intersection design. It's been proven to be safer and more efficient, and that's why you're seeing more of them being installed.
Well, France is copying them.
So is Europe, yes. So is Valparaiso.
And also South Bend Airport, a couple of them.
Are there any other questions or comments?
Motion to approve 1512.
The Transportation Policy Committee recommends action on Resolution 15-12.
I have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
You have your pick, Mary. A motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay. The motion carries.
The final action is on Resolution 15-13, which includes all of the projects, and is on pages 50 to 125, to the end of the meeting packet. It is the fiscal year 2016 to 2019 Transportation Improvement Program. Gary Evers will describe this proposed program.
Actually, we're going to do a duet. I'm joined by Melinda Petrosky, who is doing the transit portion of the TIP. A few words about the highway-related projects that are included in your agenda package. This is the first TIP that we've ever published originally where the grand total investment exceeded $1 billion. This is a first for us. We've been in the 700, 800, 900 million categories before, but this is our first time in the adoption of an original TIP that we've ever exceeded 1 billion. So this is sort of a milestone for us. We have a number of capacity increasing projects that are included in the program, including the added travel lanes projects on I-65, of course, that were added to our plan earlier this year. The Ileana Expressway remains. We have a center turn lane being added to US 41 between US 231 and I believe it's 77th Avenue. So all of that will have a continuous left turn lane. We're adding turning lanes on US 20 in the vicinity of between Woodland Ave and US 35 in Michigan City. And we have a new interchange being constructed in LaPorte County at US 20 and State Road 2, which is the most significant investment NDOT is making outside of the Ileana and the I-65 projects. In terms of projects, we have some summary information on the last page of the document, but we are tracking 170 local project phases within 99 MPO-funded projects. So we have in some cases we just have construction, in other cases we have PE right-of-way and construction. So overall we've got 170 phases that we're tracking. The total local dollar investment is right around $208 million. So it's a fairly significant amount of money that cities, towns, and counties are putting into their federal aid projects here. This TIP does not add any new projects, any new local projects. We will be adding those later on this year from the notice of fund availability that we published last October, as well as we have some transportation alternative program projects to add as well. With that said, Belinda will summarize the transit portion.
Not in such excruciating detail, though. I know everyone's kind of in a hurry. The document in your agenda package I only wanted to tell you, does not include an action that we took this week on the staff administratively amending in the FY15 TIP projects. Because of the uncertainty with the funding until somewhat last night, but again, we still don't know if the transit operators are going to get 100% of their apportionment, of our apportionment that comes through the RTA in Chicago. Right now, everybody in the country is going on a 2/3 apportionment for the transit operators. That means we went from about 11+ million down to 7 something. So nobody's done our grants. We haven't done our grants. NERC on behalf of the 7, GPTC and NICD, kind of waiting to see what are we applying for and how much belt tightening may we have to go through. All of this by way of saying that we're running late, rather than have a chance of that TIP expiring before we get the fiscal year 15 projects in a grant. We are adding all of the 15 projects from the current TIP. So 14 to 17, we're pulling out that 15 list of projects. It's been out there in the public for a little over 2 years. It's basic maintenance kinds of things. You can see it, it's on the website. And at your places should have been a copy of the TIP that does indeed include that FY16 list at the end. Again, because of the federal action, we're kind of playing, we don't want to miss the boat here game, and the feds aren't telling us quite what to do about our grants yet. So I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I do want to add one thing that sort of clarifies what Belinda said. The Federal Highway Trust Fund is about to expire, lapse, become dead, et cetera. I believe it has less than 2 weeks left.
2 months. 2 months. It did go out.
Did it get extended?
Yeah.
Okay, so we're good for 2 more months. And then they still have to appropriate the final FY15 bit of FY15 money. So that's kind of what's going on. NDOT has not slowed down any lettings or anything like that based on those concerns, but we still don't look for a long-term solution to the funding issue. Thank you.
The Transportation Policy Committee recommends action on Resolution 15-13.
Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further questions or discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please respond by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, nay? Then it is approved. Motion carries.
The next meeting date of the Transportation Policy Committee will be announced. The committee might take a month off during the summer, so stay tuned for notification. Madam Chair, this concludes the report of the Transportation Policy Committee.
All right, thank you very much. I'm going to have to pass this over to Mr. Tan, and he'll finish off the meeting for me. Thank you.
That's one of the unexpected pleasures of being the co-chair, is having the gavel passed. But that's fine. We'll take care of that. We're going to return to the agenda at this point. We'll go back to number 6, Finance and Personnel. Mr. Allen?
Good morning. The Finance and Personnel Committee met this morning, and they recommended 2 items for action by the full board, for approval by the full board. The first action item is on page 10, and it is a route feasibility study for Portage Transit and also for Hobart Transit. The recommended purchase of the route study is for each organization is not to exceed $150,000 per study. The studies will be paid out of FTA funds, with 20% being paid by the Portage Transit and by Hobart Transit. The Finance Committee recommends approval of the procurement number 15-14, which is the Portage study, and 15-15, which is the Hobart study.
We have a recommendation from the committee. Is there a motion? Motion.
Second.
And we have a second?
Second.
Mary, did you get
Second was.
both? Okay, any discussion on the action? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Thank you. The second action item is a proposed 2015 budget amendment. And this amendment adds additional STP funds, program funds for projects for the major regional trails. The additional funds will be used for 2 purposes. The first purpose is to purchase counters to put along all the major trails to collect data so that we can determine how many citizens are actually utilizing the trails throughout the counties. And it will be used for planning, assessing needs, and the information will also be incorporated into the Greenway and Blueways 2020 plan, and this is on page 11. The second purpose of the additional revenue is to be used to hire a firm to develop signage and identification markers for the trails, so that if you're out on one of the trails and you have some kind of emergency or something, you'll be able to identify the location where you are. Currently, you can be out on the trails and not know which town you were in, or not know the exact location where you are at any point on the trail. And so if there are instances where there is an emergency, or you need help, or you need assistance, you need to be able to, when you call for that help or assistance, you need to be able to identify where you are and identify an exact location. So that is the second use of the revenue. And so it's recommended by the Finance and Personnel Committee that these 2 sources of revenue and their uses be approved.
The budget amendment has been recommended by F&P. Is there a motion to
So
approve?
moved.
Second. Motion and
Excuse me,
second.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry to say we lost our quorum for full, so now it needs to be an executive board. We're 24 now.
All right.
So it would be executive board vote.
This can be voted on by the executive committee. So
Chairman, I move
I'll
the
second.
approval.
I'll second.
Okay, those are executive board members. And we have any questions or discussion?
Mr. Chairman, this was on the tip we just passed too.
So this is our share for the federal
Yes.
fulfillment.
Thank you.
Because that was item 399 on page 118.
Okay, very good. Motion second still stand. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
And I'm going to ask you to continue, sir, with your Northwest Indiana Economic Development District report.
Okay.
I
I would like to indicate that this morning I had a meeting with representatives from the State Board of Accounts, an entrance conference, and they came in to introduce themselves and notify us that they are going to conduct an audit. The audit will be an audit of our transit program, our highway planning program, and the MPO program. The audit is primarily a managerial audit, and the expected completion date would be before June 30th, so it's going to be a pretty fast audit. Moving down to the Northwest Indiana Development District, there's not a lot to report at this meeting. Our director, Matt Roof, he is still in the process of updating the SED document, and he is also still working to get a district designation from the EDA. Mr. Chair, that concludes my report.
Thank you, Mr. Allen. We appreciate your time. The NDOT report we've had, other business, under number 10, other business. There being no other business, we'll enter into the public comment period. And we have Mr. Tim Sullivan, who has asked to address the commission or executive board now at this point.
Good morning, Tim Sullivan. All of my questions have been addressed, thanks to the chairwoman. I want to thank you again. I appreciate you, and I apologize for the time. Thank you.
Not necessary to apologize. We appreciate your coming.
Thank you much.
Thank you. Josie Collins has asked to speak.
Hi, Joe. Your questions have been answered.
Okay, well, thank you very much. And yes, sir, are you on the list to speak?
No.
Let me get through the list, please.
Okay.
First.
Sorry. I don't know.
Ruben Mendez, please.
Good morning, Chair, ladies and gentlemen. I just have a few facts to present to you. I've done a little bit of research on the Lake Station roundabout. A couple things that I have concerns about, and that is the fact that on the report it states that 8.3 accidents per year, crashes per year, will be prevented. However, where the roundabout is currently and for the past, 20 years or so, it's been blocked by a barrier. There's nothing, no accidents occurring there. There can't be accidents unless they're going completely over a median, which would happen with the roundabout anyways. That's just one fact. Another fact is the fact that on the map it doesn't show that just down the road is the city of Lake Station as well as a Lake County Public Library where many children frequent. Another issue I have, or thing that I'd like to present, is the fact that the North Shore Health Center is kitty corner to where they want to place the roundabout. Also, this just over the tracks, there's a Lake Station baseball park where children play. There's also the new Field of Dreams that the city has implemented. This is another baseball park. There's also the Grand Boulevard Lake, which a lot of people, there's a trail that goes around. A lot of residents use that as well as children. There's also boat docks there that the city rents out where children go to get on the boats. There's also, and the list can go on in regards to the number of areas that our children frequent. in this area where the roundabout is going to be placed, as well as another Hoover Township Little League field there. My concern is the fact that I know that we all have children. I know that we have major concerns over the safety of our children, as well as the residents. These are a lot of areas where this summer a lot of children, a lot of individuals walk to. Placing a roundabout in this area, in my opinion, as well as opinion of many residents that I've spoken with, roundabouts are great. I lived 3 years in England, okay? Use roundabouts every day. Love them. The problem is the location of this roundabout. I don't feel that the roundabout is necessary. As I said, with 8.3 crashes a year, which I don't believe ever occurred at the location of the roundabout. And if you look at their map, the area that they're speaking about where the accidents occurred, they still have open, which is further down from where the roundabout will be. I have a few articles here also. I don't want to take up too much time because I know it's already getting late.
Yes, please summarize.
Yes, sir. However, my biggest concern is with these articles, it shows in there that roundabouts for the first few years, probably about 10 years, accidents increase. They don't decrease. They decrease after the individuals learn how to use the roundabout. With the children walking through there, I'm concerned that children will get hurt, and this is more than likely going to happen, which will end up in a suit. And I don't want to see any more suits for the city of Lake Station or any other entity of the state of Indiana, period. However, I would like to request that the floor be opened back up, that this issue be tabled, and that it be placed on a referendum in November. That's my request, so that it can be actually placed.
Thank you, Mr. Mendez. That, I assume you have addressed to the Lake Station elected officials?
You know, I've gone to the meetings, and I have addressed, actually, I have sent an email to all the council members and requested that they deny this ordinance, or this to be passed. However, the city of Lake Station only allows residents to speak at one meeting per month. They've taken away the ability for residents to speak at every meeting, and that is an issue that I as well am addressing. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Your comments will be in the minutes.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Nowacki?
Yes, thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Jim Nowacki. I'm a resident of the city of Gary. Last time I spoke before you, I was commenting on the improvements along the 1220 corridor. I related the gospel according to Luke. You remember, talked about the judge and the widow. And I didn't realize at the time how prophetic that would be for events later in the day. But like the gospel of the sower in Mark and Matthew and Luke, where some seeds are cast, some grow in rocky places, some go among thorns, some are eaten by birds, but some of those seeds land in fertile ground. Now, when I left this meeting and went back to downtown Gary, I was surprised that the Department of Transportation, the Federal Department of Transportation, was having a survey of federal projects in the city of Gary, including 1220, including Broadway. And I was invited to join some of the survey crews. And we walked along 1220. There were several groups on 12 and 20 headed west. There were several groups on Broadway. And at the end of the day, after all the groups had come back, there was a session where everyone reported on what their findings were. We talk about the complete streets, which is a very important component of the 1220 project. And what they found was this, that through the entire 1220 corridor, there were serious violations of federal rules regarding design in relationship to handicap accessibility and all matters of signage. I complained that there was not enough signage in that corridor, creating hazards for crossing. All of the groups came together with the same complaints that I'd been bringing to this board and to Mr. Alderman and now Mr. Powers regarding the faults in the actual execution of this $28 million project. Now, what was more important than the complaints, because you'd all heard those complaints, what was to me more important was one group came back with very few complaints. And would you be surprised that the one group that came back with very few complaints was the group that had the area that I had already complained so seriously about, and that the Indiana Department of Transportation had come back and corrected many of the problems that I'd had. So, none of us are going to change water into wine. None of us are going to raise the dead. But we can be just judges, okay? And we can also cast seeds in places where the seeds will grow. And an instance of this 1220 corridor, neither justice nor fruitful growth has occurred for this incredible investment. So I'm going to urge the full commission to keep that in mind going forward on other projects, and just make sure that the cries of us who complain about the unjust execution of projects in the city of Gary are heard. Thank you.
I appreciate your comments. Chair will take a point of privilege. Sir, if you'd step forward, since you took the time to come to address us, but did not sign up, I will let you speak today. And you took the time to be here, and we appreciate that. Please state your name and what you're going to speak on for the record.
All right, I'm a resident of Lake Station. My name is Ed Peralta. I'm a candidate for the Republican mayor for Lake Station, but I'm also president and founder for Hispanic Voices. So I can tell you in 4 different languages what I would like to say, okay?
If you limit yourself to English.
So since this great committee here has money to throw around, or it looks like it has money to throw around, the people of Lake Station does not want the money to be thrown around foolishly. I have been approached by numerous people, and the gentleman that's with me is also a public works individual engineer there, so he knows where I'm coming from. The people are against the turnaround, and it is true that you can take your complaint supposedly to the city hall, but the city hall has closed its doors and deals are done behind closed doors. Wow. So now Lake Station has voted, and there's a turnaround now in effect at Lake Station. The whole crew or cronies were thrown out of office, wow, except for one. And another one might be going to jail, but that's our problem, that's not your problem. Please. What we're concerned about is spending money foolishly, okay? We're concerned, save that money that's going on the turnaround, use it on side streets and put lamp posts out there that work so grandmothers or mothers can walk with the little ones down the street. Get rid of the thugs, get rid of the gangbangers, taking care of our parks and our play lots, and we see needles all over the place. We're concerned about that. That money, if you have to throw money away, throw it towards that priority. With that said and done, I want to keep it short and sweet. And I want to finish up with this, and that's where I wanted to come across. I appreciate everybody for giving me the opportunity just to say how I feel for the residents of Lake Station. Please let us put a referendum on the ballot in November. We need that, and you'll know the voice of the people. They don't want that turnaround. Please. Thank you, gentlemen and ladies.
I should point out, we do not have the legal authority to put things on the ballot, but you should continue to share those thoughts with others as well. That your comments will be listed in the minutes. Are there any other comments from anybody under announcements? Diane.
The town of Wanata is celebrating our sesquicentennial on June 12th, 13th, and 14th, and I've laid some brochures out. Come on down, it's going to be fun. So Anybody interested? They're on the back table.
I don't see our Cedar Lake representative. Let's
That's me this time.
I hope he fares well. Any other announcements? Not, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. Second? Second. There is a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Meeting adjourned. And I would invite you to take a look at this.